Hey everyone, welcome to the fourth video in my JavaScript Maps API series, where here I'm going to be talking about info windows. So in the JavaScript Maps API, an info window is an overlay that displays content in a pop-up window above the map at a specific location. Remember, an overlay in the JavaScript Maps API is an object on the map that is tied to latitude and longitude coordinates. The content an information window displays can of course be customized, but it is usually text and images. So an info window does what the name suggests. It displays information about a certain location. And the info window is made of two parts, a content area and a stem. And the stem is attached to a location on the map, and the content area has the content that you want to display. So let's get started by adding an info window to our map. And as you might have guessed, an info window is an object of the type info window. So what I'm going to do, I'll create this down here actually, and I'll just do const info window, set that equal to new Google. I can spell Google right, .maps, .info window like this. And then the constructor of the info window takes an info window options object as an argument. So I'm going to call it info window options and set that equal to this. And then one of the options the info window object takes is content, so the key content. And the content is the content that we want to display. So say I just want to have an info window that says subscribe to Wittcode, like this. So that'll be what is displayed on the info window. And then next, we need to specify where we want this info window to appear. And this is done with the key position. So position like this. And what we pass is an object of the type lat_long. And you've seen me do this quite a bit throughout the series. I'm just going to do the shorthand for this, where I'm going to do lat42 long of -87. So this is essentially shorthand for new google.maps.lat_long. And then there are some other options that I will go over in a second. But for now, let's just make our info window appear on the screen. So I'm going to save this. And you may notice, of course, that when we create the info window, and actually let me just pass in the info window options. But of course, you notice that when we create the info window, it isn't displayed on the map automatically. To make it display, you actually have to call the method open. So open like this. And then what this open window this open method takes is an info window open options object. So you can kind of see a pattern here. So this is open options. I'll just call it this. And then one of the options this object takes is the map that we want our info window to be displayed on. And so this is essentially, didn't set that equal. This is essentially, connecting our info window to our map object that we created. And then so of course we pass in our info window open options. And now you can see the info window on the map. So you can see it just says subscribe to Wittcode like this. Let me also just zoom out. I put us in the middle of the ocean. Let me change this so we're not all the way out there. Just copy this whole object and paste this in. Hopefully, there we go. Okay, that's better. So then we're subscribed to Wittcode. This is the info window. And then, of course, real quick, just in JavaScript, because the map, we can just type in map like this if we wanted to, and it still works. Because map, the object here, if the key is also the name of the variable, we can just put it itself. Just a quick side note, but so you might see that, but I'll just keep it that way as I think it makes more sense. And then let's talk about more options for this open options object. And one of those is anchor. So anchor like this. But before I actually explain this anchor option more, I want you to know that you can attach an info window to a marker. And in fact, you typically attach an info window to a marker. So far, we have just been attaching our info window directly to the map. But if we want to attach our info window to a marker, we can use the anchor property in our info window open options object. So let's just real quick, let's actually create a marker. So in the last video, we learned all about these. Let marker equal to sorry, made a whole video and already forgot. New google.maps.marker like this. And then let's just pass in what we need is the position. And let's do this again. So the center of our map, that's going to be our position. And then for our map, it's of course going to be our map. And then for anchor, let's pass in our marker like this. And now you can see that our info window is attached to our marker, or you can see the anchor of it is essentially pointing to where the marker is. So you can see that the anchor property contains an anchor point or a position to open the information window. And if the anchor position is null or undefined, then the info window will open at its position property. So this position here. And then I just want to go over another option for this info window open options object, and that is the focus property, or it's should focus actually. What we do is should focus like this, and then this option specifies whether the focus should be moved inside the info window when it's opened. So if I set this to true, it means that the focus should be applied to the info window when we open the info window. And to demonstrate this actually is when we load this, you can see its focus because you can see that X already is looks like it's been clicked on. So if I press the enter key, it disappears. But if we press say should focus to false, you can see we don't have that anymore. If I press enter, nothing happens. But then if we say click on this, then we can exit out of it that way. And now just something you should take note of is what position takes precedence when we specify a position in our info window open or in our info window options object versus when we provide our info window open position object an anchor. So if we provide a position here versus an anchor here. And you have seen already that the anchor actually overrides the position we have here. So we change this to 50, for example. You can see that it's still attached to this marker. So just when it comes to precedence, what we set the anchor to here will override this position value. But now let's talk about some other options we can pass to our info window options object. And remember, this specifies the initial parameters for displaying the info window. And so we have set the content and position, but there are two other options we can specify. And one of these is pixel offset, just like the word pixel offset. And this pixel offset is an offset from the tip of the info window to the location it is anchored to. And usually you don't need to specify this field as the default value is good enough, but let's check it out real quick. And so what this pixel offset takes is an object of the class size. So it's new google.maps.size, and then you pass in whatever you want. I'll go over these values real quick. But say we pass those, you can see where we are now is we're over here. Not sure why you'd want to do that, but that's something to know or to note. But this size constructor here takes the properties width and height. So this first option is the width and the second is the height. So technically it's 265 here and 215 here away from the anchor. And also, of course, we can add negative. So let me add a negative here. And you can see now the marker is up here. Or sorry, our info window has moved up here. And if I change this to negative 265, it'll move to the left. So it's essentially just like an X and Y graph when it comes to this property here. But now the final option, let me get rid of this, but the final option I want to go over for the info window options object is max width. So max width like this. And this argument, as its name suggests, specifies the maximum width of the info window in pixels. Because by default, an info window changes its size to fit its content. And it also auto-wraps text if the info window fills the map. But if you specify a max width, then the info window will auto-wrap the text and information to keep that width. So let me just add like some jargon in here. And then let's say we set this to be 200 like this. You can see what we get is actually a scroll bar, but it stays at 200 width. And the reason we get a scroll bar, I think, is because this is all seen as one word. But if we do this now, you can see it's still 200. We don't have that scroll bar anymore, but it's wrapped and kept a max width of 200. And also just note that if the info window reaches the maximum width and there is no vertical room on the screen, then the info window might actually expand vertically. So just keep that in mind. But now, so far we have just been setting the content of the info window in the constructor, but we can specify the content of the info window outside of this by using the SetContent method on our info window object. So in this object here. So let's say we get rid of this content here, and then let's change, add a semicolon to this. Let's do info window dot set content, and I say subscribe to Wittcode here. Save this. You can see we have subscribed to Wittcode displayed. So it's just a way to set the content dynamically. But now let's talk about closing an info window. So you may have noticed that by default, the info window remains open until the user clicks the X at the top right, or presses the escape key, or if we do like ShouldFocus true here, press enter, that's another way to remove it. But you can actually close the info window programmatically by calling its close method. So let's close our info window after 3 seconds have passed, using set timeout, of course. Pass in a function, and then we're going to say in 3 seconds or 3,000 milliseconds, we use info window.close. So this close method is what will close it. Now let's save this. And there, you can see it's closed after 3 seconds. So if you want to close an info window programmatically, you can use the close method. And then just as a side note, when an info window is closed, the focus moves to the element that was in focus prior to the info window being opened. So if we had another info window in focus before we closed another one, the focus would move back to the other info window. But also just note that if that element is unavailable, then the focus would move back to the map. So for example, let's refresh this and then watch what happens when this closes. You can see how our map is in focus now. See how it's outlined in blue? Because we didn't have anything else, so the focus moved back to the map. And like most things in this API or in JavaScript, honestly, this is customizable. And so to do that, we add a listener to our info windows objects that listens for a close click event. So we would do info window, we'd add a listener to it, and it would be close click like this, and then we can pass in a function. And so whatever would happen in here, we could handle our focus in here essentially, or we could also just do whatever we want when the info window has closed. And we will of course be learning more about events as this series progresses, so I'm not going to go too in depth on this, but just know that this is in fact possible. But now let's talk about moving an info window. So we have so far only set the position inside the info window constructor, but we can actually use a method called setPosition as well on the info window. So let me demonstrate that real quick by just showing you the method, of course, info window.setPosition, and then of course this takes an object of the class lat_long like usual. So let me pass in this here, and also get rid of this, and let's pass in that there. Cool. And then let's say we have our anchor. Let's also get rid of our anchor for a second. And also let's get rid of our timeout. Cool. And you can see we've set the position to be wherever this is now. So just know you can use this method to change the position, set it dynamically. So it's not whatever you put in this options object to go into the constructor here won't be set in stone. And now something also, let me go back to where we were at the position here, and let's get rid of this. So we're back in Chicago with our info window showing. So I also want to show you that you can move the info window by attaching it to a different marker in the info window.open method. So let's create another marker real quick. I'm just going to do marker2. Google.maps.marker. Then in here, let's pass a position of I don't know, let's try and make it close, 41.88. Let me just copy this and I'll change like the last 2 numbers or so. So paste this and let's do a, oh, forgot, closing brace here. What was it? Forgot what that was. It was a 2, so let's change that to like a 4, and let's change this to like a 9. See where that went. So cool, so we've made that there. And then of course we need to add this to the map. Can't forget to do that, so add that to the map. And then let's zoom out on our map. And then let's actually just, I'm actually just going to copy and paste this. I don't know if I mixed something up, but I'm just going to make this quicker. Do that, and then let's change this to, I don't know, 8. And then let's also change this to say 42. Cool, so you can see we have our other one up there. Now let's use our open method to change the marker. So what I would do to do this is let's do a set timeout again. And then after 3 seconds, 3000 milliseconds, we will call InfoWindow.open. And then what we can pass instead is actually a marker. So let's pass marker 2, and let's see what happens after 3 seconds. Or sorry, that's not right. Actually, what I had supposed to do is we change the anchor property to, let's say, marker 2, and then we'll just call the open method again, but this time path it with the anchor changed. So now let's see what happens. Cool, so you can see after 3 seconds, we move our info window from this marker to this one here. So you can see all sorts of different things we can do with this. But so I just changed this, what is in here, access, because it's an object, access the anchor property, set it equal to our other marker here, and then just called open again. But now let me get rid of this and just have it the way originally, because now I want to go over the final thing I want to show you, which I also think is the coolest, is that the content string we pass to the info window can also be HTML. So what we're passing to this set content can be customized HTML. So we can essentially customize the content inside it however we want to. So let's say I want to do, let me use this so I can do new lines, do ES6 syntax, and I'm going to say, let's add an H1. So if you know any HTML, it'll come in handy here. We could say subscribe to Wittcode, and then underneath this, let's add a paragraph tag. Let's just say, I hope you enjoyed this video. And then we can also, let's add an image. And I believe I have an image already in here called Wittcode marker.png. So then let's add this. So Wittcode marker.png. Don't forget to close that. And cool, so look, you can see we have made our own, our own content window, our very own customized info window using HTML. And then of course we can add some CSS. So let's say we wanted our H1, say we wanted the color of the text to be red. If we save this, you can see now we get the H1 as the color red. Or say for the paragraph tag, we want to add some style, and we want to make the background color to be blue. And now you can see that our paragraph tag's background color is blue. So you can do whatever you want. You can make really cool customizable information windows. And of course you can see it's just still anchored to our marker object. But so you of course just saw that we can customize the content of the info window, but the info window class itself does not offer customization. In other words, we can't really change the shape, like the shape of this, the stem, etc. of our info window. If you wanted to do something like this, we would need to implement our own customized pop-up. And we of course will be doing that later in this series, but until then, you've seen that there's a lot you can do with the basic info window. But so this is my my video on info windows. The reason I said shape is because the next video we're going to be going over shapes with the JavaScript Maps API, so be on the lookout for that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below, and I'll try and get back to you. But besides that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.